Hello, welcome to the first chapter we produce in English from Patriot Català TV. Um, this channel is trying to explain. I'm having a problem loading that. Sorry. Welcome. Sorry, okay, again. I don't know. I'm gonna refresh that because it's giving me some trouble. Okay, this is it. Save the Catalans. News from Catalonia. Catalonia. News and opinion from the Catalan point of view. Struggle for survival. The Wealth of Catalonia. This is part 1, volume 1, A Mediterranean Power, volume 1. So welcome. If you never found us or you have some curiosity to know about the point of view of the Catalans, many Catalans do not consider themselves Spanish, but exclusively Catalan. You can see those um, signs. Catalonia, it was a country, it was a culture. French, Castilia, before it became Spain, and England, as is it written here. Catalonia was one of the richest countries in the south of Europe. The point is that when a small country is amongst two big army forces, uh, they rob us, they kill us, and they still robbing us and killing us. Current conventional wisdom in the European Union and the United States sees the issue of secession as something outdated or even dangerous. Mainstream politicians, diplomats, and academics tend to present it as a senseless option at a moment in history where the focus is building a united Europe and a free trade world. At the same time that the United Kingdom just goes away from this new strange idea of being all the same when there's in Europe, they try to compare the European Union as something similar as the United States, but the difference is that um, in you can invest in the United States with one telephone number, one lawyer, and that's it. And you have 300 million people. But Europe, there's nothing to see. France with England, with Portugal, with Spain, with Italy. I mean, so many difference, not only languages, and and that's the point. I mean, most Catalans believe that Catalonia would be better off economically if it seceded. The fact that Catalonia pays much more to the Spanish central treasury than it receives, and the excessive bureaucracy resulting from current administrative arrangements, is a strong argument in favor. But would an independent Catalonia be economically viable? It's plain to see. It's the first time. Welcome. If you never found us, you're gonna learn what is Catalonia. Finn Erling Kitlan, speaking at a conference in the Catalan Parliament 2004, Nobel laureate in economics, Kitlan drew the parallel with Scotland as and also said that if the nation achieved independence, it could create the same climate of confidence that allowed Ireland to grow spectacularly for 20 years. This is from 2010. And this is kind of somebody. Okay, it's the first time we did that because we found that Catalan it's been erased from Google. Professor says that he would not be surprised if an independent Catalonia inspired more confidence in markets than Spain. Of course, of course. Nobel Prize winner in economics 2004 Finn Erling Kirtland says that he would not be surprised if Catalonia were independent. The Catalan government would find it easier to demonstrate its credibility than the Spanish government as a whole. In reference to the financial confidence that a state is capable of generating in the eyes of investors in times of economic crisis. It is plain to see that Catalonia would be the richest country in Europe, and we will show it up. I mean, not just say it, we're gonna show it. We would be like, look that Barcelona, Catalonia, still
Barcelona, Catalonia is one of the world's top locations in quality of life. But how much do you know about its quality as a business hub?
Organizing transportation for the world from here in Catalonia. We have a massively talented team and competitive operational costs, and it's easy to get a ride and discover places.
Invest in Barcelona, Catalonia, Southern Europe's hub for business and life.
Okay, so Gary Stanley Beckett, Nobel Prize winner in economics, 1992, Gary Stanley Beckett claims that Catalonia, as a new European and democratic Catalan state, would not be an economic disaster. In fact, he argues that small countries are actually more economically viable. 2012. The things that Spanish media is trying to make us swallow is that we would go to bankruptcy, bankruptcy. Of course, got, if we would get all our money, it would be worst for us. Sure, it is. Although emotions usually overflow on the subject of secession and forcible integration, I will not try to evaluate the significance of nationalistic feelings in a region or country. I will instead focus on the economic consequences of a country's breakup into smaller and largely independent countries. Often stressed in that sense, larger countries have bigger domestic markets. Companies in larger countries can utilize economies of scale in production. I Small countries can do well with small domestic markets by taking advantage of a globalized economic economy by selling large fractions of its production to consumers and companies in other countries. That is why smaller countries usually sport considerably oops, sorry. Of its production to consumers and companies in other countries. That is why smaller countries usually export a considerably larger fractions of its production and import a much bigger share of its consumption than do larger countries. Size of country wasn't much more important in the past when many countries had high tariffs and transportation costs were much more important. Political interest groups tend to be less able in smaller countries in distorting political decision in their favor. This is partly because smaller countries are more homogeneous, so it is harder for one group to exploit another group since the groups are similar. In addition, since smaller countries, oops, sorry again, here it is. Um, This is partly because smaller countries are more homogeneous, so it is harder for one group to exploit another group since the groups are similar. In addition, since smaller nations have less monopoly power in world markets, it is less efficient for them to subsidize domestic companies in order to give these companies an advantage over imports. The greater profits to domestic companies from these subsidies come at the expense of much larger declines in consumer well-being. You can find those information in Catalonian newstate.blogspot.com. You're gonna find that Stanley Becker report. Hmm. The growth in the competitiveness of small countries on the global market, it is in good part responsible at a deeper level for the remarkable growth in the number of countries since 1950, from a little over 100 to almost 200 countries now in 50 years, and the number of independent countries still growing. So we doubled the number of countries in 50 years, which clearly tells that it's more functional, it's more productive to arrange your own stuff in a smaller scale. Probably in the old times, the Catalan economy shows their evolution, and it is a big difference. And therefore, according to this comparative analysis, we can say that to date, the political situation has not damaged the Catalan economy, be it business, biotechnology, biomedicine goals. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurship in Catalonia, no entrepreneurship whatsoever in Spain. I mean, we are different cultures. Um, Firmly and with determination, it is possible to go very far. And it is also, Mr. President, I know that it's being hard to you, but you have a goal. Go ahead. Don't flinch. The Wall Street Journal. According to the Wall Street Journal, Catalans are suffering from fiscal recentralization and discrimination from Madrid each year since 1986. An average of 9% of Catalonia's GDP, gross domestic product, in net terms, has left the region to be redistributed or spent by Madrid. Nowhere else in Europe or North America do intranational transfers of that size occur as a matter of course. So almost 10% goes away and never comes back. And how it was before, it's very necessary to understand that. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can solve a little thing. Just one moment. Let me change something. I have to. This is it. Let me see if I can. Where is it? Sorry, excuse me, just one moment. Mm, okay, I will try to solve it later on. Okay, look at that. Why Spain won't reform? Catalans know firsthand that in Spain all roads are and high-speed rail run through Madrid. I mean, mm, Spain is unreformable, impossible. Pro-independence supporters claim Catalonia is robbed by Spain. The gap between what Catalans pay in taxes and what they get back in services. Sorry, again. Okay, sorry. That was a call. Our lines were back. Oh, excuse me again. Oh my God, what's happening here? So let me see if this is working again. Sorry for the streaming. I'm doing. For independent supporters claims Catalonia has robbed by Spain. The gap between what Catalans pay in taxes and what they get back in services is 10 billion euros per year. That's around 4% of Catalan GDP. Is there a problem of tax collection in Catalonia? No, there's not. So where is the problem? Because they are the public resources. But if those resources in the middle, Eurostat, according to Eurostat, Catalonia would be the 10th richest country in Europe after Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Ireland, Austria, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Belgium, and Finland. Look at that. Catalonia without the parasite, which is Spain, because Spain won over Catalonia by war. I mean, they killed us. It was a general called Espartero that said, you have to bombard the Catalans every 50 years. And for the first time in history, is the longest period without being bombarded by the Spaniards. We've been also bombarded by the French, but we've been more bombarded and executed and forbidden for the Spaniards. Look at those numbers. I mean, look, Norway number one, Austria number two, Flanders number three, Catalonia number four, above Portugal, Ireland, Belgium, Veneto, Scotland, Romania, Hungary, Basque Country. Look, Catalonia is like among 3 to 4 times, which is the Basque Country. Luxembourg, Slovenia, South Tyrol, Latvia, Navarra, Estonia, Malta. Would be great to be one first world because we're still living in the third world, as we saw with the Fraser index, where Spain is leading by big margin the miserability in the advanced world. The location is amazing. Better for their own economic aspects of general regional autonomy and independence movements in Europe, with independence referendum in Scotland and unofficial polls in Catalonia and Veneto, separatist aspirations in Europe were recently given a boost. In regions seeking greater self-determination or even full secession. Look at that. Independence movements in Europe, an overview. Region, the Basque Country. Um, this is the population. Look the GDP. It's amazing. GDP per capita and GDP percentage wise and the unemployment. Look, look. I mean, the numbers are look. I mean, we are first world, and we are managed by the leader of miserability in the world, and that leader in miserability just just kill us, forbidden us, and bombard us to get all that money for themselves. I don't know if I'm being clear enough. Huh? Better off on their own? Yeah, because uh, I mean, we are guided, we are led by an insolvent junkie. I don't know if I'm being clear enough. Okay, Spain is an insolvent junkie. Okay. A remarkable aspect is that the three richest regions in the common system, Madrid, the Balearic Islands, and Catalonia, are not on top anymore after horizontal redistribution. The change in the ranking is partly the consequence of accounting for different financing needs, but it is an undesirable feature from the perspective of incentive compatibility. The seemingly arbitrary distribution gives rise to claims of richer areas that their contribution is disproportionately large. Preserving the ranking is a key Catalan demand for fiscal reform. The reformed regional state of Catalonia, approved by the Catalan parliament in 2006, but partly rejected by the Constitutional Court in 2010, stipulates the state shall guarantee the application of the leveling mechanisms, shall in no case alter the position of Catalonia in the leveling ranking of per capita earnings. So I don't know if those all those numbers and all those things, all those tribulations, but winners and losers of the regional fiscal equalization scheme. Okay, let's see. Look, Canary Islands. This is let's see. For example, this is what they get. This is what they give. It's gross fiscal capacity per capita and per capita financial resources after equalization. That what that means. It's easy to see. Madrid is the one who gets the most. It is not the one who gives the most or produces the most. Um, and it is plain to see. The average is always favorable to compensate, let's say, the poorer parts, and to be favorable to the to Madrid, basically to Madrid. Everything goes to Madrid.
We made a very thorough research regarding the future position of our digital sales hub. And the most important aspect for us was to be able to have access to a talent pool. We need people with a digital background. We need software analysts, data analysts. We need software development people. And here in Catalonia, specifically in Barcelona, we find a great supply of these talents. What is also important is that we have a good ecosystem of collaboration with startup companies, with universities, and of course with other companies. And we wanted to have this digital sales hub close to one of our big sales organizations, which is of course then ideal here in Barcelona with our headquarter for the Spanish, Iberian, and in future broader market. In general, Catalonia is a industrial-rich environment. If I compare to Spain in total and even to Europe in total, this is for sure one of the industrial centers. And we have a lot of customers that are interesting for us because they are also innovation leaders in their area. We can learn a lot from those customers, and we can then implement that in our global product portfolio.
Financial Times says Financial Times Alphaville reports fiscal inequality toward Catalonia and described Spain as a transfer union. Okay, I just want to explain you because sometimes all those numbers are difficult to understand. Okay, but I just want to give you a little anecdote. Few weeks ago, we were interviewing a political activist, a very young man. He's black, he's gay, and he's pro-independence. He's Catalan, and he's pro-independence. And I told him, what's the worst thing, being gay, being black, or being Catalan pro-independence? And he said, definitely being pro-independence. I mean, if someone just attacks you for being gay or for being black, a lot of people is going to defend you. I mean, but if you are Catalan, it's worse than be, I don't know, child rapist or something like that. And we need to ask for help. This is a message in a bottle for the people in the world, because inside Spain, uh, we are kind of abused partner, and we're gonna keep doing that. We're gonna do once a week, at least once a week, this message in English, to try to Spain and Italy, in other words, are engaged in transfer union, at least as much as the euro area as a whole. No wonder regionalist parties in Basque Country, Navarre, Catalonia, and northern Italy have become so popular in recent years. Dark green places are the richest, while pale yellow are the poorest. You know, you can see, we are compensating all the poorest parts, which are everything but Catalan countries and Catalonia, and all those people vote to keep submitted Catalonia. That's a fact. You can try to use some kind of euphemisms, but this is the fact. This is fact. Okay. So we're gonna try to give some stability to this section in English. It's the first time we did that, and we're gonna try to make it better every time. Fiscal deficit. Okay. England. So this, which is the capital, and you know 6.3 deficit. France, Paris, which is the richest part, 4.3. Germany, Baviera, 4%. Spain, Catalonia, 10%. But this is not the only thing, because there's more about that, because there's the investments that you are able to do, and you don't. Market watch. Catalonia would have a gross domestic product of 314 billion, according to calculations by the OECD, which would make it the 34th largest economy in the world. That would make it bigger than Portugal or Hong Kong, which are perfectly viable by themselves. Its GDP per capita would be 35,000, which would make it wealthier than South Korea, Israel, or Italy, and of course, much better than Spain. Much better than Spain. Those are facts. I mean, those are not opinions, are facts. Opinion. Catalonia is a far bigger threat. Catalonia is a far bigger threat to Europe than Scotland was. Messi breakup in Spain. That was super, super sad. Sorry about that. A small nation with a proud history, a rich economic history, and a bold bid for independence from an overbearing neighbor. A few weeks ago, it was Scotland looking to break away from the United Kingdom. Now it's Catalonia looking to break away from Spain. The Scottish question has been settled, at least for the time being. But the drive for Catalonian independence is a far bigger threat to the European markets that. Ooh, sorry again. Excuse me. At least for the time being. But the drive for Catalonian independence is far bigger threat to the European markets than the Scottish independence movement ever was. Size matters. Size matters. And Scotland is like this, and Catalonia is like this. The political position is much better, the GDP is much larger. So it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
One of Europe's strongest industrial and manufacturing hubs, Catalonia has a diverse economy, from equipment to food industries, ICT, or the automotive sector, among many others. Access Catalonia Industry Suppliers, the largest online industrial platform that brings you over 3,000 verified suppliers that are available to your company.
Okay, why? There are three main reasons. First, it is far more likely to happen. While Scotland had little economic incentive to break away, Catalonia has plenty. Second, Catalonian independence threatens the stability of the single currency. And finally, while London was relatively relaxed about losing Scotland, Madrid is not at all relaxed about losing Catalonia. The argument could turn very ugly because Spain depends entirely on what they rob us. Okay, I'm not going to use any euphemisms. I mean, England can afford to lose Scotland. It's smaller. They are a big economy. England is a super strong economy, and Scotland is very small. But Spain is no economy. I mean, they depend uh, entirely on what they rob to Catalonia and Catalan countries, which is uh, País Valencià, which is all the Valencia area, Balears, Ibiza, all the Balears, and Catalonia. The Catalan countries are 70% of the exports and 50% of the GDP. So Spain depends entirely of what they rob to Catalonia. The markets took a while to wake up to the threat posed by a Scottish breakaway, but when they did, they wobbled. Likewise, they have not yet woken up to the threat Catalonia poses, but when they do it, it could trigger a substantial dive. The trouble is, the Spanish government has flatly rejected the right of Catalans to choose. The Constitutional Court has rejected the vote, and it remains to be seen whether it goes ahead. If it does, and Catalans vote yes, it will be hard to resist granting its independence. After all, the days when people were forced to remain in a state against their democratic will are meant to be long behind us. In reality, there is no reason why Catalonia should not be perfectly viable as an independent nation, just as there was no reason why Scotland could not prosper on its own either. With 7.5 million people, it would be the 99th biggest country in the world, like middle rank. There's 200 countries, we are 100, so middle-sized country, like twice the size of Denmark, for example. Um, Hardly huge, but there are another 94 United Nations members that are smaller than Catalonia. I mean, uh, if there's 200 countries and we are in 99, middle table, okay? So there's 100 countries smaller in in the United Nations. If you have a gross domestic product of 314 billion, according to calculations by the OECD, oh, please stop it. Sorry, let me see that. If it would have a gross domestic product of 314 billion, according to calculations by the OECD, which would make it the 34th largest economy in the world. 34th, which means that there are 170 worse economies than us. That would make it bigger than Portugal or Hong Kong, which are perfectly viable by themselves. Its GDP per capita would be 35,000, which would make it wealthier than South Korea, Israel, or Italy. Italy! There is nothing for anyone to be afraid of there. And yet, when it looked briefly as if Scotland might break away from the UK, the pound wobbled and share prices in London took a hammering. That was despite the fact a Scottish breakaway would have relatively little impact on the wider economy. A Catalan succession would be far more serious for the European economy and markets, mostly because Spain wouldn't be able to pay his debt. Impossible to pay his debt without uh, keep on robbing on Catalonia. That's what it is, man. You can try to explain it in it is what it is. Former Kenneth Rogoff, former IMF chief economist, says Catalonia would be one of the richest countries in the world if it were independent. Oh. Meanwhile, Spanish politicians say that Catalonia would be totally bankrupt if they would be not in Spain. I can imagine. If I keep all my money, it would be so much worse for me. Imagine. Imagine. So we have to explain that to the world. I mean, this is our mission.
He was director of research at the International Monetary Fund. He is one of the smartest guys in the room when it comes to understanding the global and national economy, and he joins me now with more. Ken, good to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Maria, for having me.
So,
Italy and Spain from defaulting on their debts. We're joined now by former chief economist at the IMF, Ken Lolland, who's now a professor at Harvard University. Very good morning to you, Professor Lolland. Joining me now to talk about Wall Street's wild week, what it means or doesn't mean, and what may lay behind it and what lies ahead of us. Two of the world's top economists. Paul Krugman won the 2008 Nobel Prize in Economics, and he is a columnist for the New York Times. Kenneth Rogoff is a former chief economist at the International Monetary Fund, now a professor of economics at Harvard University.
has this package been able to effectively allay fears in the markets about a contagion, and what are the longer-term implications? Joining us to talk about that is Kenneth Rogoff, professor of economics at Harvard University and former chief economist at the IMF. Professor Rogoff, thank you very much for joining us on Your World at 10.
Of this big controversy after cutting the AAA debt rating to AA+. Joining us on the phone, guy I've been quoting for the past week, Ken Rogoff, economics professor at Harvard University. He's done extensive work on the debt to GDP ratio theory. And Ken, thank you for joining us. I was just reading an article by Zach Carabell on the Daily Beast saying that it's actually your study that was the basis, in part, for the way S&P might be thinking about this. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think what S&P quoted about looking at the future sustainability and the acrimony in Washington.
Catalan News. Former IMF chief economist says Catalonia would be one of the richest countries in the world if it were independent. Kenneth Rogoff, currently professor of Harvard, predicts that Spain has a high chance of being rescued by the European Union. He also adds that if it were not rescued, even France could fall. So they are not viable. They are not viable. They depend entirely on what they rob to Catalonia. Barcelona. Catalonia is an independent nation would be one of the richest countries in the world, stated by the former IMF chief economist Kenneth Rogoff in an interview to Capital magazine, in which he reviews the Spain's economic situation. Rogoff, currently professor at Harvard University, defends that Spain has many strong points, such as excellent companies and regions like Catalonia, but he thinks that there is a high probability that Spain might have to be rescued. This would be the case as Greece Ireland and Portugal would have to recognize their debt. And when this happens, markets would go crazy and the rescue would be almost unavoidable, explained Rogov. If Europe did not rescue Spain, in that case, the entire Eurozone would be at risk and even France would fall. So Spain is not viable without Catalonia. The fake is that they are trying to convince the world that Catalonia is not viable without Spain, but it's totally the opposite. Spain is not viable with all the GDP that they rob from Catalonia, because this is robbery. This is not solidarity. Solidarity is when I already paid all my expenses, then I can give away something. But when you get the 60% of everything prevently, this is not solidarity. This is robbery. Rogov said it is unimaginable that Europe would leave Spain to go bankrupt without lending any help. But if it was to suspend payments, things would not end this way. It would spread to Belgium, Italy, and France. The prestigious economist warns today the Spanish debt is already at a dangerous level to deal with, but if it increases another 30%, then it would not be able to be governed in any way. Rogov warns Europe that it should set a red line in the case of Spain. The former economist says that the Spanish government has not reacted fast enough, but admits that recent reforms have strengthened the country. So Spain rebuilt the country by a dictator, Franco. They kill everyone, and they still in the power. They still in the power. Look about that. Therefore, 2017, those figures are from 2017. Therefore, Catalonia counts from around 7% of Spain debt, which is not a small price tag. This aspect, combined with the loss of Catalonia's tax revenues, would be a hit to the Spanish economy. Look, this is 1 billion, and this is almost 90 billion, okay? Catalonia, Spain, not including Catalonia. So look, right now Spain have 135% of GDP's debt. Imagine losing that. I mean, they cannot afford to lose what they rob us. Facts, not opinions. Facts. Impossible to try to make me believe that if you get all my money, it's for the better for me. It's like, okay, I get all your money, but it's better for you. Don't be silly, because if you would get all your money, that would be a lot worse for you. Well, Catalans only account for about 16% of the Spanish population. Catalonia makes a hefty contribution to the overall Spanish economy, making 223.6 billion euros, 262.9 billion a year, according to the regional government. This is around 20% of its total gross domestic product, GDP, larger than the contribution that California makes to the whole United States. I'm going to say it again. This is around 20% of its total gross domestic product, larger than the contribution that California makes to the whole United States. Being confused. Using figures from the official European and Catalonian organization, Business Insider claimed earlier this year that the region would quickly gain about 16 billion euros yearly in the case of a split, and they would no longer have to pay taxes to Spain. This would then result in a loss of about 2% to the Spanish GDP, gross domestic product, yearly. It would be a lot worse. It's super amazing. It's super amazing. Game over. Game over. Uh, this is the bankruptcy. We are not gonna get in details because we just started 2022. According to the Bank of Spain, Spain's real debt stands at almost 2 trillion euros. Like I was getting short in my asseveration. This is almost a 200% of GDP's debt. I mean, this is unpayable forever, in 10 generations, unpayable forever. And this insolvent junkie who killed everyone to get the power, is deciding what we can and we cannot do. An independent Catalonia would have 47.3 billion euros more than now. Catalonia would be like Denmark or even Switzerland. But the colonists sent to us by Franco, for the moment, are avoiding it, even at the cost of their health and everyone's else. 47.3 million euros are a lot of resources, a lot of resources. And they try to make us believe that it would be worse for us. So we have to accept the shootings and the bombs. I mean, we deserve it, I suppose. I don't know. Credit Suisse. A report from Credit Suisse says that Catalonia would improve with independence, becoming 20th in a ranking of the Human Development Index. So it is plain to see that it would be not better, a lot better for Catalans to get away from Spain. Spain is an insolvent junkie. Save the Catalans. News from Catalonia. We're gonna be uh, publishing every week in English to try to explain why we deserve, why we are going to be again not a new state, because we have 1,000 years of story, and we are giving this message to the world. Thanks for being there, and God bless Catalonia. $300 being Catalans, we are going to decide our future. Catalonia a struggle for survival. Patriot Català TV, news and opinion from the Catalan point of view. We are totally very tired of look who's here. Let's talk a bit with the chat. Thanks, it's our first experience. Matriota Darres, very nice to see you here. Good night, Catalonia. Good night, Matriota. I tant, tens tota la raó. Thank you very much for being here every day. Thank you. Patriot Català TV, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. Martí Salva, in English. Wow. We're going to do once a week, at least once a week. This is a kind of a message in a bottle, for the world to try to find more and more and more people. Joan, good night, good evening, Joan. Thanks for being here. Bones a tothom, un altre cop per aquí. Bona nit. Joan, thanks for being here. In English, well, we are attending. Thank you very much. We're trying to send a message to the world, kind of save the Catalans way, because, of course, we found that Catalan doesn't exist because, 300 years ago, they killed us, they erased us, they forbidden us, they bombarded us, as some generals from Spain said, we have to bombard Catalonia every 50 years. And now it have been 70 years from the last bombarding. So we need to ask for help to the world, because it doesn't exist, even though Catalan on the metadata and the logarithm thing is being out translated to Spanish, and it's kind of if it's like if we would be publishing in a language that we just invented, that it doesn't exist. Uh, and so we need to shout out to the world and ask for help, because we are being mistreated, robbed by the Spanish government, not government, the kingdom of Spain. And this is it. This is it. Who's there? Joan. Thanks. Moltes gracias, Joan. Thank you very much. Nina Santi. Good evening. What a surprise. Yeah, we're going to do a section mainly in English to try to break through the walls of censorship that we are suffering. H. Caedes, boas tardes. Buenas tardes. Português? Português? Fala português? Obrigado, obrigado. Joan, ops. Okay, so good night, everybody. Here again, once more. Yeah, we'll keep pushing until the final victory. Raconet, molt bé, Sam. Sí, 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 molt bé. Molt bé, gràcies. Bueno, hem comès una mica... We did a little mistakes, because it's the first time we do this format, but we're going to keep on going. And I give my total commitment on keep improving every day and every week. And I wish we're going to find a lot of people in the world who really want to know what happened in Catalonia. But not, it's like I suppose many of you know the novel by Stephen King called Misery. She's a registered nurse, a bit mad, that she's a big fan of a writer, and she kidnaps him. And imagine that the Catalans, we are the writer, we are kidnapped, by the force of war. And imagine that it's Misery who is explaining to the world what Catalonia needs. And what Catalonia needs is to break away from this insolvent junkie, which is the Kingdom of Spain, which is the Franco regime rebuilt and remastered, or new makeup, but they still, the king, the father of the nowadays king, was put by Franco, and they still changing now the son and the new daughters and everything. So yeah, we need to run away as fast as we can from those insolvent junkies. Sorry, thanks, Raconet. You are so fantastic. You are phenomenal. Thank you, really. Thank you, Raconet. You are so great. Joan, I think it's a good idea export our message to the world in English. Yeah, we're gonna try to, because we found out that Catalan is not ranking. It's not ranking. It doesn't exist, because Spain made the laws to make us, to erase us, to delete us. Nina Santi, a very good idea and very good first program. Thank you very much. We're going to keep on improving. Thank you very much. Joan, yeah, it's true. Best send the message to everyone in different languages. Sensational. We're going to keep on improving, and we're going to keep on fighting. We won't give up. We won't give up. So it is possible that we should have, if we can finance our cause, we're going to win tomorrow, maybe tonight. But if we can't finance ourselves faster enough, maybe we should have to keep on doing that what we are doing from the first world, because it is plain to see that Spain is third world. Spain is not a democracy. It is not a democracy, and it is third world. They are leading by a big margin the index of miserability in the industrialized countries. So we need to escape from those criminals. Okay, Daniel Martí Alonso, good evening. Thanks for being here, Daniel. Bona nit, patriotes. Moltíssimes gràcies. So thank you. It is the first time, and I think it went good enough, not too bad, but I promise we're gonna keep improving. We're gonna do one program a week, at least in English, and depending on how well it works, maybe more than that. So thank you very much. God bless Catalonia, and let's make Catalonia free again. Thank you very much, and freedom for Catalonia.